Two people wake up on the same Monday morning. Same country, same generation, same lifetime of work behind them. The first man walks across a quiet, 2,400 square foot home in a Dallas suburb. Hardwood floors, minimal furniture, everything paid off. In the garage, a 2016 Toyota Camry. No payments, no stress attached to it. He pours coffee, opens his laptop, not to work but to check a flight confirmation. 6 weeks in Arizona, golf in the morning, nothing scheduled after that. His 401k and IRA accounts sit just above $1.2 million. He hasn't checked the balance in weeks. He doesn't need to. The system is already built. For the first time in his adult life, money is not part of his daily thinking. Across town, a woman the same age opens her laptop at the kitchen table of a larger, 2,700 square foot house. Granite countertops. Renovated kitchen from 5 years ago, still paying for it. Her mortgage pulls $1,800 every month. 9 years left. In the driveway, a $78,000 SUV with a $920 monthly payment. She logs into her bank account, then into her retirement account, $110,000. Then into her credit cards, $14,000 spread across 3 balances. She opens a spreadsheet, Social Security on one side, expenses on the other. The numbers don't match, they haven't matched for years. Same lifetime of effort, 2 completely different endings. From the outside, the second life looks more successful. A larger house, a newer SUV, a renovated kitchen with quartz countertops and soft-close cabinets. Everything signals progress, stability, achievement. But none of those signals measure what actually matters. Because every one of those upgrades came with a monthly obligation. A payment that shows up whether income does or not. A fixed cost that does not care how tired you are or whether you want to keep working. The first man owns less, but almost nothing owns him. The second woman owns more, but every piece of it demands to be maintained. That's the inversion most people never see. Income is not the constraint, obligations are. 2 people can earn within a few $1,000s of each other for decades and still end up in completely different realities. Not because one made more money, but because one allowed their lifestyle to expand until it consumed everything they earned. This is the quiet mechanism behind most financial outcomes in America. Raises come in, expenses rise to meet them. The gap between income and spending never forms. And without that gap, nothing compounds. No margin means no buffer. No buffer means no flexibility. No flexibility means every decision runs through a single filter. Can I afford this? And that question never goes away. Most people think wealth is measured by what you own. A house with more square footage. A driveway filled with newer cars. A home that looks upgraded, modern, finished. But ownership is not neutral. Ownership comes with weight. Every asset you add to your life brings maintenance, insurance, taxes, and time. It creates a fixed demand on your future income. That is the part no one calculates. The $78,000 SUV is not just a car. It's a $920 monthly obligation. Insurance, registration, depreciation. A stream of future payments disguised as a purchase. The 2,700 square foot house is not just space. It's property tax, utilities, repairs, a higher baseline cost of simply existing. This is the shift most people never make. Wealth is not what you accumulate. Wealth is what you no longer have to support. Because every dollar committed to maintaining a lifestyle is a dollar that cannot build one. And over time, that distinction compounds. One life becomes lighter, the other becomes heavier, not because of income, but because of what that income was turned into. The numbers behind this are not subtle, they are structural. The median American approaching retirement has about $185,000 saved. Apply the 4% rule, and that produces roughly $7,400 per year, about $617 per month. Add Social Security, around $2,000 per month. Total income, roughly $2,600. Now compare that to reality. Basic living costs in the US range from $3,200 to $4,300 per month, depending on the state. Housing, food, utilities, insurance, nothing extravagant, just maintenance. The gap is immediate and permanent. This is not a rare scenario, it is the default outcome. The root of it starts earlier. The average savings rate sits around 3.6%. The required rate to retire comfortably is closer to 15–20%. That difference compounds across decades. A 25-year-old investing $5,000 per year at 8% ends with about $1.6 million by 65. Start at 35 with the same contribution, and the outcome drops to roughly $730,000. A 10-year delay costs about $870,000. Not because of effort, not because of skill, because time was never given the chance to work. And when people interrupt that process, the damage accelerates. Withdraw $20,000 from a retirement account at 35, and after taxes, you might keep $13,600. But left untouched, that same $20,000 becomes roughly $200,000 by 65. That is how the gap forms, quietly, mathematically, over time. The difference between those two outcomes is not complicated. It is built on a small set of decisions repeated for decades. Most people never formalize them. They operate on intention. The people who retire comfortably operate on rules. Know your savings rate, not the dollar amount you contribute, the percentage. A $300 contribution means nothing without context. 3% and 15% produce completely different futures. Set a floor of 15% before your lifestyle expands. If you wait until after, the margin never appears. Automate contributions before the money hits your checking account. What you never see, you never spend. Never interrupt compounding. Retirement accounts are not emergency funds. Every withdrawal resets the clock more than you think. Build a real emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of expenses. Without it, you will eventually break the system. Calculate your retirement number. Take your annual expenses and multiply by 25. Without a target, saving has no direction. Delay Social Security if you can afford to. An extra $1,000 per month for life requires no market risk, only patience. Eliminate debt before retirement. Fixed payments destroy fixed income. Price everything in cost per use. If you don't use it, it's not an asset, it's a liability. Assume inflation will cut your purchasing power in half, because over time, it will. Take the SUV sitting in that driveway, $78,000 purchase price. Driven about 8,000 miles per year, keep it for 5 years, that's 40,000 miles total. Before gas, insurance, or maintenance, you're already at roughly $1.95 per mile in depreciation alone. Add insurance, interest, and upkeep, and it climbs closer to $9.10 per mile. Now compare that to a $18,000 used sedan, same 8,000 miles per year, same 5-year period. Your total cost drops to around $2.03 per mile. The difference is not the car. It's about $6.07 per mile times 40,000 miles equals $240,000 to $280,000 over time when that capital is invested instead. That is a retirement account. Now look inside the house. A $2,500 Peloton bike, subscription on top. Used twice a week for a few months, then once a week, then not at all, 40 uses in a year. That's over $60 per workout, more expensive than a personal trainer. Or the $45,000 kitchen remodel, quartz countertops, new cabinets, soft lighting. No income generated, no return, but higher property taxes, higher insurance, more to maintain. These purchases feel like upgrades in the moment, but each one quietly converts future income into fixed obligations. Not because they are inherently bad, but because they are rarely evaluated in the only metric that matters. What does this cost me over time? This is where the system turns from math into behavior. Every fixed payment creates a small amount of pressure. Individually, it feels manageable. Together, it becomes constant. Mortgage, car payment, credit cards, subscriptions, insurance. Each one pulls from the same pool of income. Each one reduces the margin you have left to think clearly. That pressure shows up as stress, not extreme, not dramatic, just a steady, low-level signal that never turns off. Your brain responds to that signal the same way it responds to any form of scarcity. It narrows focus. It prioritizes the immediate. It trades long-term thinking for short-term relief. That is how compounding gets interrupted. You don't withdraw from a retirement account because you don't understand math. You do it because the present problem feels urgent and the future cost feels abstract. Over time, this creates a loop. More obligations, right arrow, less margin, right arrow, more stress, right arrow, worse decisions, right arrow, even more obligations. And eventually, the system becomes self-reinforcing. Decision fatigue takes over. Every financial choice becomes another calculation, another trade-off. Another moment where the easiest option is to do nothing and let the system continue. This is why people with similar incomes diverge so dramatically, not because one is smarter, because one designed their life to reduce pressure, and the other slowly accumulated it. This does not require a dramatic reset, it requires structure. Start with visibility. This week, track every dollar that leaves your account, not categories, not estimates, actual numbers. At the end of the week, calculate your savings rate as a percentage of gross income. Most people avoid this step, because once the number is visible, it becomes real. Next, create separation. Set up an automatic transfer that moves money into your 401k or investment account before it reaches your checking account. Increase it by 1% immediately, then again next month. Do not wait for a raise, the system has to come first. Then stabilize the foundation. Build an emergency fund that covers at least 3 months of expenses. Keep it liquid, accessible, boring. This is what protects your long-term capital from short-term problems. Now define direction. Calculate your annual expenses. Multiply by 25, that number is your target. Without it, saving is just motion. With it, every dollar has a purpose. From there, reduce pressure. Each month, eliminate one fixed expense. Refinance, cancel, downgrade, or pay off. Not everything at once, but consistently. And every quarter, review the trajectory, net worth, savings rate, progress toward the target. Not to feel good, to stay accurate. Over time, small decisions stop being small. They organize themselves into systems. One system looks stable on the surface. Income rises, promotions come in, bonuses increase. But each increase is matched by a new obligation, a larger home, a newer car, higher monthly payments that quietly absorb the raise. The lifestyle expands until it sits directly on top of the income that supports it. At that point, work is no longer a choice. It becomes a requirement. Any disruption, a layoff, a health issue, a family emergency, immediately exposes the fragility. This is the destructive loop. Income rises, right arrow, expenses rise, right arrow, no margin forms, right arrow, stress increases, right arrow, decisions worsen, the system tightens. It can run for decades without being noticed, until retirement forces the math into the open. The other system looks almost identical in the beginning. Income rises, but expenses stay controlled. Part of every raise is captured before it can be spent. Savings increase, investments grow. At first, nothing feels different. Then gradually, something changes. The gap between income and spending widens. Pressure decreases. Decisions become easier. Opportunities appear that were not available before. This is the virtuous loop. Income rises, right arrow, savings rise, right arrow, investments compound, right arrow, margin expands, right arrow, optionality increases. 10, 20 years later, the outcomes no longer look similar. One system owns more things, the other owns more time. At some point, the numbers stop being the point, not because they are small, but because they no longer define your life. A person with a $1,800 mortgage, a $920 car payment, and $1,200 in monthly obligations can earn a high income and still feel constrained. Every dollar already has a destination. Every decision runs through the same filter. Can I afford this? That question does not disappear with income, it disappears with margin. Now imagine the opposite. Housing is covered, baseline expenses are stable. And every month, $800, $1,200, sometimes more arrives without requiring your time. Not enough to impress anyone, enough to change how you think. You stop asking if you can afford things, you start asking if things are worth owning at all. Because the real shift was never about retirement, it was about removing dependency. The ability to leave work that is slowly draining you. The ability to take time when someone you love needs it. The ability to move, to pause, or to say no without negotiating your survival. That is what the numbers were building toward. Wealth is not the house, not the car, not the visible signals. Wealth is the number of choices available to you, optionality.